On June 28th, this next Tuesday, there's going to be a congressional runoff. And with me today is our guest, candidate Michael Cassidy for the Congressional District of 3 for the state of Mississippi. Welcome, Mr. Cassidy. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
If you live in the green zone here, which is Congressional District 3, this is the district, should you be elected, this is the district that you would be representing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that goes there from Oktibbeha County. We see right there, Winston, Noxubee, and then goes on over to the southern part of the state down to Pike County. So that's the district there. What I'd like for you to share is a little bit about yourself, any family, even your political, who's influenced you politically, who is your, what is your political background in terms of, I believe you describe yourself as a conservative. Have you always been a conservative, or, what are your political beliefs?
Certainly. So background on myself, as people can tell from pretty much as soon as I start speaking, that I'm not from Mississippi originally. Well, I grew up in Virginia and in Northern Virginia, but just like the Duke of Wellington said, being born in a stable does not make one a horse. And that even though it's a pretty liberal area, for all of my certainly adult life and even really in high school, I've been pretty conservative. So I was a freshman in high school when September 11th happened, when I was in Arlington, and that made a pretty big impact on me. And really over the next year or two, and thinking about the attacks on our nation, I said, when I get done with high school, I want to do something in the military. And a combination of, that's how I got in the military for political beliefs. It's kind of connected with service to the nation, that it wasn't just that I was mad at the people who attacked our country on 9/11. It was a deep recognition of our nation, going back over centuries, that we have been blessed with one of the most beautiful lands on earth here in North America. We've been blessed with the Constitution. We've been blessed with an incredible history and culture of Western civilization. And I felt a duty to defend that. And that I couldn't imagine not giving something back. And so that's how I got in the military, and it's connected with political views, because I love our history and our culture so much that I wanted to preserve it. And that's what Christian conservatives do. We fight to keep the traditions that have gotten us to the point that we are today, that built the nation into what it is. And so preserving those institutions, preserving the family, preserving God in our public sphere, which has been over decades, we've fallen away from that. Those are all huge things that impact me. A couple of the major political people that I've looked up to over the years would be Patrick Buchanan. I was too young for when he was running for president to really pay attention, but finding out more about him over the years as I was growing up, and then reading some of his books, and also Ron Paul, who's a pretty individualistic person. He's willing to stand up to the establishment. Being in the Navy, it solidified my conservative values, and that the naval aviation is a very conservative institution, that especially people who land jets on aircraft carriers. There are a couple of outliers, but by and large, we are an extremely conservative group. And that's that certainly kept me conservative. And just, observation, being a Christian and observing the degradation of our society, like how it's impossible to not be conservative when we see what's been going on in our country.
What's your belief or conviction on religious liberty, or the history of religious liberty and how important religious liberty is to this country?
Well, it's absolutely essential, and that the something that people don't people who talk about the getting God out of the public sphere, they'll talk about Thomas Jefferson writing about the separation of church and state in the early 19th century. And what people don't know is that Thomas Jefferson, when he was the president of the United States, every Sunday he would attend a non-denominational Protestant service in the House of Representatives.
Now, wait a minute. Now you're saying that the people that they say that there should be they cite Jefferson and said there should be a separation of religion and state, that Thomas Jefferson was having worship services in the Capitol on a regular basis.
That is absolutely correct.
So it sounds like some people have been misinformed.
That is 100% the case, and that's one of the, I would say, the faults of the conservative movement, not so much AFA, but at the conservative movement at large, is that we have been over the past several decades very, complicit and very in letting the left kick religion out of the public sphere. And we need to bring prayer back to schools. We can't be ashamed of the words and the message of Jesus Christ, and that we have to, live our lives proudly and publicly. That's the Great Commission, is to preach the gospel to all nations, and we have not done the best job of that in recent decades.
When it comes to the issue of the life issue, sanctity of life, people say, well, I'm pro-life. So what does, that's almost kind of like conservative. People can say I'm conservative and they can believe a whole host of things and really not be fundamentally conservative. But so people say pro-life. What does pro-life, how do you define that? Or what does that mean to you? And especially not only in a religious way, but also how does that comport to political philosophy?
It starts from the beginning, with conception, life beginning at conception, and protecting it from there onward. That it's the unborn really don't have a voice of their own, and it's incumbent on us as politicians to defend them. And that means having potentially difficult positions that are not according to the media, according to the political commentators up in DC, may not be the most popular. But if you believe, like I do, that life begins at conception, that means that you protect it. That means that even in the horrible cases such as rape or incest, that you don't support the punishment. You don't support punishing a child for that, and punishing with death. It's one reason why we need to increase the penalty severely for rape. It shouldn't be something that is just, you get a couple of years, maybe, in prison for it. The penalties need to go up significantly.
How do you speak to, I hear what you're saying about not supporting abortion and increasing penalties for those that would rape a woman, for example. So, but when it comes to the issue of, I draw a distinction between funding abortion and then funding abortion providers. So I hear you saying that your conviction is that you would not support any funding of abortion. There's already a federal law in place or provision, the Hyde Amendment, that says no funding shall be provided to perform an abortion. However, what about financially supporting an abortion provider, meaning providing money for making grants available to an abortion provider that would keep the lights on, that would pay for infrastructure for Planned Parenthood, even for the building? How do you think, do you think that the government ought to be paying for the infrastructure or making available grant monies to abortion providers like Planned Parenthood?
I strongly oppose it, and I will never vote on any bill that gives a dime of taxpayer money to Planned Parenthood. That is something my opponent and I disagree with. He has multiple times voted to give over $1 billion to Planned Parenthood. And even though there is a Hyde Amendment, it's the money once it gets to Planned Parenthood, it's all, it's the same thing as if you had an aquarium and you had some redfish and you had some bluefish. And you poured in 1 gallon of water. You said, hey, only the redfish can use this gallon of water. Then you pour in another gallon of water. You say, hey, only the bluefish can use that gallon of water. It's all mixed up in the same aquarium. You can't really separate it. And so that is why I'm so opposed to giving any money whatsoever to Planned Parenthood, because it continues their mission, and their mission is to kill the unborn. And that is something that we should not tolerate as conservatives.
Yeah, and that would be our position at AFA Action, and AFA would oppose any funding of abortion providers, and certainly not any funding for abortion itself. So what about, let's take, for example, there was a bill that came up in Congress. It was called the Consolidated Appropriation Act, I think, of 2022. It was recently passed, I guess, in a couple months ago. And within that piece of legislation, there was funding for military. There was also funding for Ukraine, and it also had funding for discretionary spending that included Title X, which is basically how Planned Parenthood has access to as much as $286 million. I think they get about $50 to $60 million of that a year that could be used to help provide abortions. So what about in a spending bill you serve in the Navy or have served? Are you still in reserve status, or what's your?
I'm in the Navy Reserves as a instructor pilot.
Okay, so you're in the military, and so you're there in Congress. Hypothetically, if this bill were to come up again, that you had the opportunity to fund the military or block funding to Planned Parenthood, how would you vote?
That's an easy question. I would vote no for both that, for the Ukraine money, when we've got $30 trillion of debt, we've got soaring inflation. We can't be giving tens of billions of money to foreign nations. We can't ever give money to Planned Parenthood. And I've been in the military since 2009, and all of the shutdowns that we've had along the way, we've always gotten paid. We've never stopped our training. Everything keeps going on. The whole idea of a government shutdown, it is well overblown what the actual impact is. Even the people who got temporarily furloughed, they got back pay from the government, some of the bureaucrats. So that's what the other side may say, that, oh, the government's gonna collapse if you don't vote on this bill. And that's just not the case. That's just absolutely not the case. And it's an excuse that people have used for decades to keep these sorts of bad funding, like for Planned Parenthood, in the budget. And we have to stand up with one voice on the right and say, we're not going to take part in this anymore.
What is your thought on that Obergefell decision? Do you think that they made the right decision there? What is your thought?
No, I don't think they made the right decision at all. I think that the Supreme Court has very often overstepped their constitutional authority to come up with ideas or new so-called rights that do not exist in the Constitution, that are just simply extra constitutional. And one of the best things that Donald Trump did is we got 3 new justices on the Supreme Court during his term. And because of that, it looks like we're finally going to get Roe v. Wade overturned. Now, we're going to find out, I think, this week. I really hope that it's the case, but we have to, conservatives we need to look at some of the other poor decisions that have been made by the Supreme Court over the past couple of decades, and then really reassess about whether we can do something like Mississippi has done to get, hopefully, Roe overturned.
You made a comment that government should somehow reward marriage. what did you mean by that? Or where would that money come from? Or where did you think the money would come from? Or where do you think it would come from if you have some type of idea on how government should reward marriage?
So
Guys.
to be clear, that is no longer part of my platform. I got some pretty good feedback from supporters about how we could be more conservative with a family plan, and that's why I support having a child tax deduction, so allowing families to keep more of their own income instead of giving it to the federal government. They get to keep more of their own income. But that idea came from a distress looking at the American family over the past several decades, that it has been under attack after attack from the left, whether it's traditional families, whether it's children, marriage, that we have declining marriage rates, declining birth rates, all sorts of things that are bad for our nation, things that are very bad. And I thought that, there's already, the federal government spends a lot of money on welfare and things that do not incentivize family formation. Maybe instead of it going there, it could go to things that do encourage good traditional family formation. Again, I got some good feedback from people who had thought about this as well. And they said, hey, that's not the most conservative plan for the federal government to be implementing that kind of thing. And I thought about it and I agreed. I think that they were correct. And that's why I've improved the plan from that to instead focusing on allowing people to keep more of their own money instead of giving it in taxes to the government.
So you're saying that you listened to your potential constituents and responded?
That's correct, and that's to be very clear. That's I know that I am not omniscient on every single issue. There are many issues that I'm not backing down on, whether it's election integrity, whether it's immigration policy, whether it's protecting our children from cultural Marxism, whether it's energy independence. Those are things that's bedrock. But in terms of economic policies, the economy, I'm more than happy to get feedback from conservatives to always be striving for the best possible platform.
So there's been some local news reporting that indicated that you've refused that you would vote against Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
Just checking. Would you vote against Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House?
There is no chance on earth that I would vote for Nancy Pelosi or any other Democrat. That was an extreme twisting of words by a news outlet that I won't mention their name. But what I said was that when they asked, who are you going to vote for Speaker if you get elected? And I said, I'm focused on the race right now. I don't even know who's running. But to clear things up again, I won't vote for any Democrat. And one person who I know that I will not vote for on the Republican side, I will not vote for Kevin McCarthy. 0% chance that I vote for Kevin McCarthy.
What is it about McCarthy you think that would cause you to want to vote against him?
Well, to be honest, he's a rhino, and he also he's putting $500,000 of money that should be going to the getting Democrats out of office. He's putting that in the race against me, and that's because he knows that I'm actually going to hold the establishment's feet to the fire on a lot of America First issues, such as Planned Parenthood. I'm going to be a strong no vote for giving money to Planned Parenthood. And he's one of those guys that just wants to, hold your nose and I'm going to say no. Like that. And that's the kind of attitude that McCarthy and many of the people in the leadership of the establishment wing of the Republican Party, they need to go. They absolutely have to go, and I will not ever give my vote for Kevin.
So thank you for clarifying that. What about Obamacare? Obamacare was basically nationalized healthcare subsidized by the federal government, by taxpayers, you and me and all taxpayers. So do you think Medicare for all is a workable solution? And what is your thought on Medicare, healthcare for all as a government benefit?
Nope, I'm against that. I'm against that idea. There are some attack ads out there that say that that is the bedrock of my campaign, and that is not true at all. I'll say that as I I took a lot of my ideas from my experience in the TRICARE, into the government healthcare program, and I thought briefly that maybe other people could do that too. Within a week, as I was going back through my issues or what I put on there, I said that's going to cost way too much money. It's too efficient. There's no way we're not going to do that. So before I even began campaigning, I got rid of that idea, and so. That's the centerpiece of the attack against me by McCarthy and by Mr. Guest, and it's the furthest from the truth.
Okay, there's a little bit of breakup in the audio. So from what I heard in the breakup of the audio, when I asked you if you supported Obamacare or nationalized healthcare for all, and I understood that you said unequivocally no, that you do not support healthcare for all in terms of as a federal subsidy. Is that a correct summarization?
Absolutely correct. That is correct.
You went to Virginia Tech for college there, and then when did you do anything else before you entered into the military?
No, I went high school to Virginia Tech in the Navy ROTC program there, and then as soon as I commissioned in 2009 from Virginia Tech, then I went to flight school in Pensacola, Florida, then did flight training all over, flew F-18s, then came back here to Mississippi to be an instructor pilot, and then got off active duty a year and a half ago and never left.
Is there anything else about yourself that you think has been misrepresented about you in the media or by anyone else in this campaign that you would like to clarify from your perspective?
My opponent has said that I have attacked his family. I think that's a pretty low accusation. I have never done that. The only thing I've ever said about anybody in his family is that I thought that his son, who worked the election day polls at the same place that I did, was very polite and very enthusiastic and supportive of his father's campaign, and that I thought that his dad would be proud of him. That's the only thing I've said, and it's despicable that my opponent has made the accusation otherwise. So that's one misrepresentation. Another misrepresentation, an attack that has been made on me is that I was temporarily grounded by the Navy from from being able to fly on the Navy base here, and the accusation, there have been, I don't know, underhanded accusations by my opponent's campaign. The reason for it is, and I said it from the beginning, I'm the person who took the story to the media, and it's because I was told that my platform for the military, which is to get rid of all of the diversity, inclusion, and equity programs, as well as stop using race or sex for promotion or quotas. We need to get rid of that. Mm-hmm. And that the Navy said, well, that goes against Navy policy. You can't say that. And I said, if I can't say that I'm against that, then how on earth can I oppose any government policy? How on earth can I say that, like I'll say right now, I think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both need to be impeached. My opponent disagrees. He doesn't think that they've done anything worthy of impeachment. But if I can say that, which of course I can as a political candidate, then I can critique Navy policy as well. And it's basically an intimidation from the Department of Navy. I didn't back down. I didn't change my policy to accommodate them. It is a sincerely held deep belief that our military we are going to lose a major war if we keep on the current trends that we're going. We have focused too much on leftist social values in the military instead of focusing on the number one thing, which is lethality. The military is about killing people. It's not about making people happy and hold hands. It's about killing our enemy. And whatever we do in the military should be always focused on that singular goal. Does it increase lethality or does it not? And if it doesn't, it needs to go. If it does, we need to promote it.
Do you believe that the government is correct in mandating vaccines without any exception, or do you think they just should stay out of the vaccine business altogether? What's your response to the vaccine and military?
I am quite angry would be an understatement to describe my thoughts about the government and then the military mandating the COVID vaccine, at whether it's in the military or mandating it throughout the government or among kids. That it is asinine and it's counterproductive. It is against lethality to kick out so many good people in the military over the COVID shot. And something that I support if I were to get into Congress is to end the mandate, one, and then two, offer back pay to everybody who got kicked out of the military for not taking the COVID shot, and then also offered anybody who got kicked out, if they still want back in, let them back in at their previous their rank and position. That it's one of the worst policies that within the Department of Defense.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cassidy. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me and with AFA Action leading up to this primary election runoff. It's going to be on June 28th. There's also opportunity if you are going to be out of town on the 28th. You have an opportunity to vote absentee, and you would just all you need to do is just go to your circuit clerk's office there in the courthouse or wherever that place would be in your voting area, and then you could vote absentee if you qualify for that. But if not, voting day is on June 28th. So I encourage you to get out and vote for the candidate of your choice. Thank you so much, Mr. Cass, for your service. Very much so. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.